Hi, my dear future doctors and the NEET aspirants out there. So, today we are going to learn about the human reproduction, guys. So, I'm very happy to start this channel, which is going to be very dedicated towards the NEET preparation. And I'm going to just handle all the zoology topics, and I'm starting with one of the important topic, which is human reproduction. Alright guys, yes, and I hope and I believe that this channel is going to be very useful and beneficial for you guys, and I'm going to be extremely happy if it benefits you a lot. Alright, with that note, let us begin the chapter human reproduction, one of the important chapter which you have to know, very interesting as well. So guys, let me take you to a tour to the complete sections of the chapter. So the chapter starts with the male reproductive system, the very first division, right? So we are going to concentrate about the male reproductive system in today's session. And then you have the female reproductive system, right? So if you ask me what will we be exactly learning in the male reproductive system, about the primary sex organ, which is testis, followed by the accessory ducts and glands, about semen, sperm, about the external genitalia, all that we'll be learning. And the same with the female reproductive system, right? So the primary sex organ, accessory ducts and glands, and the external genitalia, all that. Then comes the third section where we'll be learning about the gametogenesis. So where we'll be learning about spermatogenesis in male and oogenesis in female. So that will be very exciting, guys. And then the fourth section, if you see, it's all about the menstrual cycle, the different phases of menstruation. So I'll be teaching you that. Then the fifth part of the chapter is the fertilization and implantation, very important. And the sixth section is pregnancy. Yes, it's a CY. Alright, pregnancy and embryonic development. And the last one is parturition and lactation. Finally, you have one last session which deals with the disorders in the reproductive system. But as far as the disorders are concerned, whenever I teach you the respective systems, I'll also tell you then and there the important ones to keep in mind, even if I'm not letting you know that at the last session we have a separate exclusive session where we'll be learning about the left out disorders. Alright guys, with that note, let us begin the session. Yes. So before starting, I would like you to explain what is reproduction. Of course, in your lower grades, you might have learned about reproduction, and you know the difference between sexual and asexual reproduction as well. So guys, reproduction is the process by which the young ones are formed, right? The formation of new generation, the offsprings, is what is known as reproduction. Of course, we human beings undergo sexual reproduction wherein two parents are involved, right? The father and the mother. So that should be the very first point whenever you talk about sexual reproduction. And gamete formation is involved. Gamete formation, and hence gamete fusion is also going to take place. Alright, yes, so that is the important aspect which you have to know regarding the sexual reproduction. Alright, so as I told you, there are two individuals involved. You have to know about the male reproductive part and the female reproductive part, and in today's session we are going to know about the male reproductive part. Now before that, let me tell you the events of reproduction. The very first thing, as I told you, it starts with the gamete formation. So that you call it the gametogenesis. Alright guys. And what has to be the second one? Insemination, something called as insemination. So you guys have to know these terminologies. So that is the reason I am introducing all these at the very beginning of the session, so that you will not find it difficult when you start learning the other chapters. Alright guys, so gametogenesis and insemination, I'll tell you everything. And then you have the fertilization. So first let me explain you these three things. What is gametogenesis? Genesis means formation, gameto means gamete. So formation of the gametes, sperm in male and the egg, ovum in female, is known as gametogenesis. Once they are formed, the sperm has to get deposited in the female tract, which we call it the vagina. Only then fertilization can happen. That process by which the sperm is deposited in the vagina is known as insemination. Alright guys, and once it is deposited, it travels and meets the egg there and they fuse together. That fusion of male and female gamete is known as fertilization. Then what do you think will follow that? The fourth step, we call it the cleavage. So the end product of fertilization is what is known as zygote. The zygote divides to form blastocyst and that has to get implanted. So that process by which the zygote divides is cleavage and it forms blastocyst which gets implanted. So you call it implantation. Alright? Yes. Now what has to happen after implantation? What do you think will happen after implantation? It is splitted, the embryo is implanted and then you have something called as yes guys, so immediately after implantation what happens is that placentation, right? The implanted embryo has to be nourished, so the placenta forms. And next you have the gastrulation, right, where the germ layer formation happens so that the organs can develop from the germ layers. So the next step is organogenesis, right? Genesis is formation, organo is the formation of organs. And finally the baby is ready and the act of giving birth, which is delivery, is known as parturition. So delivery happens and finally the delivered baby has to be nourished, right? So that is why the mother undergoes this lactation period. So yes, the lactation. Alright guys, so these are the different events which are happening during reproduction. Yes, so let us go one by one, but before getting into all of this, as I already told you, let us start with the male reproductive system. So that is the today's objective. Alright guys, do not worry, we'll be completing all of these topics. Yes, so guys, as you guys can see the picture here, yes, hope you guys can see the picture, right? So this is the male reproductive system. Yes, you can see the pair of testes here. So testis is the plural form, is, if you write is testis, it's the singular form. Alright guys, so you have a pair of testis, right, so which is the primary sex organ. Alright, and then you can see a small crescent shaped structure which is sitting at the top of the testis, which you call it to be the epidermis. You can see the epidermis marked there, and you can see that the testis is there in a sac like structure. So this sac is what is known as the scrotum, and the epidermis is leading into two tubes, right? No guys, so that you call the vas deferens. What is that guys? Vas deferens. So vas deferens has another name which is known as ductus deferens. So make a note of all of these things guys, very important. And that you can see it is leading into the ejaculatory duct. You can see the ejaculatory duct and the urinogenital tract, right? And you can see the urethra and finally the urethral meatus, right? And this external structure is what we call it to be the penis, the external genitalia. Alright guys, now I hope you guys have got a complete picture of how a male reproductive system looks. So let us get into the specifics. So done. So you have a pair of testes in a sac called scrotum, and above the testes you have something called epidermis that descends into a pair of vas deferens that is leading into the ejaculatory duct, then the urinogenital tract which is the urethra, and finally the opening which is the urethral meatus. Alright guys, so that is about the system. Now guys, here is a very beautiful picture showing the cross section of the male reproductive system. Alright guys, can you see that there? Yes? Yeah. So this sac is what is the scrotum. This sac is the scrotum, and you can see the testes there inside the scrotum. So you know guys, exactly at the 7th month of pregnancy, when this male child is growing inside the mother's womb, right, that 7th month we are talking about, the testes of the male child descends into the scrotum. What am I saying? The testes will descend into the scrotum. Alright, that has to happen because it is very important that the testis is located inside this sac, right, and not remaining in the abdominal cavity. So this happens with the help of a hormone called testosterone. But sometimes what happens is, because of the deficiency of the hormone, the testis will not descend into the scrotum. That condition is known as cryptorchidism. Alright, so crypto means hidden, orchido means testis. So it's like that of a hidden testis now, because it is not properly descended into the scrotum. So this is one of the very important question. And guys, meanwhile when I discuss, I'll also be telling you the important questions to expect as well. So whenever I use the symbol important, it means it's very important. Alright guys. Yes, so that's about the cryptorchidism. So now coming back to the topic. Alright guys, so let me yes, so guys, look at the cross section. They have made a cut there and they have shown you internally how it looks. Alright, so this is the testis part, right, this ball like structure, and above that you have something which is sitting like this, right. So this is what is the epidermis. So let me use some other color here. So this one, right, probably I'll go for a black. Yes, so this one which is sitting above is the epidermis. Alright, yes. So now look at the testes guys. Each of the testes. So I told that there is a pair of testes, and each testis have around 250 lobes. What do you mean by the lobes guys? If you take this as the testis, there will be lobes like this, right, different compartments like this. There will be 250 lobes which are different compartments, and each lobe has a coiled tube like structure. So it may vary. The tube is generally from, each lobe will have around 1 to 3 tubules, coiled tubes. So that tube is known as seminiferous tubule, right. How many lobes each testis has guys? 250, and each lobe will have around 1 to 3 seminiferous tubules. Alright guys, now what is this seminiferous tubules? Can you see a coil like structure here? These are seminiferous tubules guys. Okay, now if you ask me, ma'am, what is the significance? This is the site where the sperm formation happens. Alright guys. Yes, yeah, and you can see that all of these seminiferous tubules is going and coiling here. Alright, it is going and coiling here and forming a network here. Alright, that network is what is known as the Retti Testis. What is that guys? That is known as the Retti Testis. Okay, yeah, and if you see the Retti Testis is attached to the epidermis through some tubes like this. These tubes are known as the vasa efferentia, and that is what is getting joined to a long tube which is known as the epidermis, right. A long coiled tube is what is known as epidermis. So let us go back once again. See guys, if this is the testis, testis has lobes like this. So you have lobes like that of 250 lobes like this, but I cannot show you exactly, right? Yeah, and each lobe will have around 1 to 3 seminiferous tubules, coiled tubules like this. Alright, so the ones which I am drawing now are the seminiferous tubules, and all these tubules, they join together at this part and form a network. This network is the Retti Testis. This is the Retti Testis. And now what happens? From the Retti Testis, some coil come out and they join with a very, very long coil tube. So let me mark it for you. These are seminiferous tubules. So this network is the Retti Testis, and the tubes which are arising from the Retti Testis, which is joining the epididymis, is known as vasa efferentia, and this part is what is known as the epididymis. And now what happens to this coil tube? That is what is connected to the vas deferens, which is also known as the ductus deferens. Alright guys, so hope this diagram is clear. So know that one testis is having 250 lobes and each lobe has 1 to 3 seminiferous tubule. Very, very, very important question. Alright guys, now I am going to tell you some terminology. So it's time for terminology. So guys, know that ectomy, the word ectomy means surgical removal, right? Surgical removal. Alright guys, yes. So I already told you cryptorchidism, right? Cryptorchidism is when the testis doesn't descend properly in the scrotum, right? Because of deficiency in testosterone, right? So that is cryptorchidism, where you know the word orchido means the testis, alright? Yeah, ectomy means surgical removal. So because of variety of reasons, the testis has to be removed. For example, consider the case of cancer or tumor in the testis. So they have to remove the testis, right? Yeah. So that kind of procedure, you call it orchidectomy, which means surgical removal of testis. Know that. Very, very, very important. Ectomy means surgical removal, orchido means testis. Surgical removal of testis is known as orchidectomy. Yes, orchidectomy. Alright? Yes, orchidectomy. Alright guys, so that is one important takeaway. So now that you guys know all the specifics of the testis, so now let me tell you what are the duct system which you are going to know. So testis, which is the primary sex organ. So just now you came to know about the seminiferous tubules inside them, and then of course you have the seminiferous tubules. You have the upper sitting part, which is the epididymis, and here also the Retti testis, which I told you. Retti testis, yeah, from Retti testis to vas efferentia to epididymis, and from there it is connected to vas deferens. And what happens after that? The ejaculatory duct, and then the urethra. Alright, and finally you have the urethral meatus, the orifice, the opening. Alright, yeah. So if you take the epididymis, it has three parts. We call it the caput, which is the cap, the head. Then the corpus, which is the body. and then there is this end part, the tail part, which you call it the chorda. Caudal means tail or the end part. Alright, yeah. Similarly, if you take the urethra, there are three types, just know the types. We call them the glandular urethra, membranous urethra, and finally the penile urethra. Alright, so this you have to know. What are the types of epidermis and the different types of urethra based on their location. The part, this particular part you call it glandular, this particular part membranous. So I will tell you that with a picture. So this is all about the duct system which you have to know. Alright, so now as I told you about the seminiferous tubules are the site for testis, the sperm formation, right? The seminiferous tubules are the site for sperm formation. Yes, so we'll see about the seminiferous tubules. What exactly is there to bring about the sperm formation? Alright. Yes. So I have this beautiful picture to show you. Yeah. So now look at this picture, guys. What are these now? What are these exactly? Alright, guys. So this is a seminiferous tubule, a cross section and a top view under the electron microscope. And you can see another tubule there. Likewise, another tubule here, another tubule here and here. And what are the black dots which you see there? The black dots which you see here are exactly known as the spermatogonia. Spermatogonia, which is the mother sperm cell, which means the mother from which the sperm cells arises. And can you see some finger-like cells there? They are known as the Serotonin cells. Serotonin cells. So inside which is where you can see the spermatogonia. Alright, yeah. So you can see that all through there. Yes, the Serotonin cells. And you can see some tail-like structures which are like this. Right now, guys. And this is the lumen of the tube. The lumen, right? The hollow cavity of the seminiferous tubule. Alright, guys. So now I hope you guys can understand. And this is another seminiferous tubule. This is one tubule. And you can see some gap in between the tubules, right? Some interstitial space there, right? In between the tubes. So this, even in that space, you can see some dark spots. They are known as the Leydig cells. So guys, know that Leydig cells is located outside of the seminiferous tubules and Serotonin cells is located to the inside of the seminiferous tubules. Now, what are the functions of Serotonin and Leydig cells? Very, very important. Spermatogonia is the mother of a sperm cell, right? Which means this is what is going to turn into the sperm. Alright? This Serotonin cell is what is going to nourish the spermatogonia so that it can develop into a sperm. Alright? So the nutrition is given by the Serotonin cells. Alright, guys? So that is why we call them the nurse cells. Alright? They are giving nutrition to the spermatogonia. And what about the Leydig cells? These are the cells which produce the testosterone, which is otherwise known as the androgen, right? The male sex hormone. Alright? Yes. So know the difference between Serotonin cells and the Leydig cells, guys. Serotonin cells is located inside the tubule, seminiferous tubule, whereas Leydig cells is located in between the tubules, outside the tubule. Okay? Yes. Yeah. So that is what you have to know. Alright, guys. One important thing you have to know. Right? Yes. So when you understand the spermatogenesis, you will definitely understand this. So this spermatogonia, no guys, that will develop and finally it becomes the sperm. And you know what happens? The head of the sperm will be there in the attached to the Serotonin cells, and the tail will be falling into the lumen. That is why you can see some tail there. Understanding, guys? Once the sperm is formed, the head will be attached to the Serotonin cells and the tail will be falling inside the lumen. That is why you can see some tail-like structures in the lumen there. Alright, then they will leave the seminiferous tubule, and where will they go? Where will they go? They will go to the Retti Testis, vas efferentia. They will be stored in the epidermis, and through vas deferens they reach the ejaculatory duct. Right? Yes? Yeah. So this you have to know. Very important thing. Alright, guys. Yes. Now, this beautiful picture will make everything clear now. So you guys now know about the seminiferous tubules. Yes, so you guys know about the seminiferous tubules. You know about the Retti Testis, epidermis, the vas deferens, and the ejaculatory duct. So that is about the duct system. Now what about the accessory glands? The accessory glands associated with them. What are the glands now? So there are 3 glands which play a very major role, right? So we call it seminal vesicles. So this picture is basically to show you all the glands involved, right? And then you have the prostate gland, and then you have the and then you have the bulbourethral gland. Alright, guys. Yeah, so out of these 3 glands, if you take the first one, the seminal vesicles and the bulbourethral gland, these are paired glands, but whereas prostate is unpaired gland. Very important question from exam perspective. Alright, yes. So before talking about the contribution of the accessory glands and their fluids, I would like to tell one important thing about the scrotum. Alright, guys, in all of the pictures which I showed you, I showed that there is a sac-like structure, called scrotum, right? So that bag is external to the pelvis, right? And why is it external to that of the body surface? Because the sperm production cannot happen in the body temperature. The normal average body temperature is around 37 degrees Celsius, right? But the ideal temperature for sperm production is around 2 to 2.5 degrees Celsius less than that of the body temperature. Alright, guys. So that is why they are descended externally, right, outside of the pelvic region into a bag-like structure called scrotum. So you have to know that, again, a very important question from exam perspective. Alright, yes. So now coming back to the accessory glands. Yeah. Yeah. So these are the 3 glands, guys: seminal vesicles, prostate, and the bulbourethral. So you can see the seminal vesicle here, right, which is descending into the ejaculatory duct. Yes, you can see the ejaculatory duct here. This is the duct which is entering the membranous urethra. I told you there are 3 types, right? Urethra, glandular, which is otherwise known as prostatic, because that urethra is surrounded by the prostate. Can you see the prostate gland here, guys? Yeah, so that is why that is the first section of urethra, prostatic urethra or glandular. Second one is the membranous urethra, which is the intermediate part, the central part, right? And then you have at the end you have the penile urethra, which is otherwise known as spongy urethra. These are the 3 sections of the urethra. Urethra, you can also call urethra to be the urinogenital tract. Urinogenital tract. Alright, guys, both means the same. So this is a long tract basically in male, but it is very short in case of female, right? So here it is very long and you have these 3 sections, And the prostratic urethra is where you have the prostate gland, which is this gland, and you can evidently see that it is unpaired. And then you have this bulb-like gland, which is the bulbourethral gland. So guys, if you take the ejaculatory duct, why it is so known as ejaculatory? Ejaculation, what do you mean by ejaculation? The act of expelling the sperm out of the body. Act of expelling the sperm out of the body during sexual intercourse is what is known as ejaculation. Alright? Yeah, so what does the fluid contain? What is exactly that? Yes, so we are going to see about these glands as well, the importance of these glands, along with one more information. So basically, maybe the seminal vesicles or the prostate or the bulbourethral gland, all these are giving some sexual fluid, right? That fluid, you call it the seminal fluid altogether, all the fluid. So seminal doesn't just mean the seminal vesicle fluid, no. Seminal fluid means the fluid secreted by seminal vesicle plus prostate plus the bulbourethral, right? So why is this fluid needed? We'll see that. That along with the sperm is known as the semen. Alright guys, yeah. So I told you that the ejaculatory duct is, entering the membranous urethra, and further it has the the prostatic urethra, the penile urethra and all coming further. Now if you see the ejaculatory duct which is giving out, that is just rich with sperm and just seminal vesicle fluid, not seminal fluid, right? So this part you cannot call this to be semen. You should not call this as semen, no, because only you can call semen when seminal fluid and sperm is there. That is, all the three fluids when they are there along with the sperm, only then you can call that as semen. If not, you should not call it semen. Alright. So this mixture, right, sperm with seminal vesicle, as it comes down, the prostate will release its fluid. As it comes down, the bulbourethral gland will give. And finally, the penile urethra, right? So that is what is actually having. Or you can say the urethra, right, is what is having the semen. But you should not say that the ejaculatory duct has semen. No, ejaculatory duct just has the seminal vesicle, because if this is this ejaculatory duct, your seminal vesicle is attached to the duct like this. So ejaculatory duct just has sperm plus the seminal vesicle fluid, not the seminal fluid. Alright guys, you have to know that. Very, very important question from exam perspective. Alright, yeah, so that will be expelled out. Now what is the need for this sexual fluid? And guys, why is the fluid known as seminal fluid, though it has two other glands involved? Because the seminal vesicle is what contributes maximum amount of the fluid to semen. That is, around 60% is contributed by the seminal vesicle and the remaining 40% from the prostate and the bulbourethral. Alright guys. Now what is the function of this fluid? If you ask me that, yeah, the function of all these fluid, the semen, right, if you take that, it is rich with fructose, some citrate ions, and then you have something called as prostaglandins. Alright guys, and you have a lot of calcium enzymes as well, right? So the fructose and the citrate ions, they help in providing the energy to the sperm, right? Energy source. And what about the prostaglandins and calcium? They help in the contraction. Right? So the contraction will further help in the motility of the sperm. Alright guys, this you have to know. And if you take this semen, the pH of the semen is 7.7, which means it is alkaline, basic in nature. Alright guys, and normally if you take in one ejaculation if you take, there will be around 200 to 300 million sperms. So this is the normal count, okay, of an healthy adult. Alright guys, so know this, right? So the purpose of the sexual fluid mixing with the sperm is to nourish, give nutrition to the sperm, as well as increase its motility by contracting, right? So the contraction is done by the prostaglandins and calcium ions, and the fructose and the citrate ions help in providing the energy source. Alright guys, yeah. And in specific, if you ask me what is the function of the bulbourethral gland or the Cooper's gland, which is otherwise known as the Cooper's gland, you know, very important thing, it lowers the acidity which is caused by the urine. It lowers the acidity because guys, urine is slightly acidic, right? If you see the pH, it is 6.5. Lowers the acidity caused by urine. Alright, so to lower that, you have the bulbourethral fluid, which further increases the alkalinity. Alright guys, so that is regarding the bulbourethral gland. And let me teach you one more interesting concept. Yes, so which is actually some of the important terms which you might expect. And guys, yes, the important terms which you have to know is all about this. See, I told you the normal number of sperms which is ejaculated per ejaculation is 200 to 300. So when that is reduced, when there is 80 million sperms per ejaculation, you call that condition as oligospermia. Oligo means less, spermia. Alright, so this is one condition. And azoospermia, so this terminology refers when there is only 10 to 20 million sperms per ejaculation. And there is one condition which is known as asthanospermia. Asthanospermia is where the sperm motility is reduced, because of which the fertilization cannot happen. And teratospermia, terato is like a rakshasan, very big abnormal sperm. So because of which again it will create a lot of problem with fertilization, right? So these are some of the terminologies which you guys have to look upon. Alright guys, so let me quickly take you through all of the slides so that you guys can get to know about all of the important terminologies. So we started with the very first thing where we learnt about the structure of the chapter, starting with the male reproductive, female reproductive system, gametogenesis, menstrual cycle, fertilization and implantation, pregnancy and embryonic development, parturition, lactation, along with all of the disorders, right, in the reproductive system. So this is the entire chapter, and today we saw about the male reproductive system. To start with, I showed you this slide where you can beautifully see the pair of testes, the vas deferens, the ejaculatory duct, and you can see the urethra and the urethral meatus. So this is a beautiful diagram. And here one important thing which I told you is about the scrotum, where you have to know that the scrotum, right, is you know, having or maintaining the temperature which is 2 to 2.5 degrees Celsius less than that of the body temperature, which is ideal for sperm production. Alright guys, and then we talked about the cross section of the testis. Yes, the cross section of the testis, how it looks, and each testis has 250 lobes and one lobe has 1 to 3 seminiferous tubules. Alright, so this seminiferous tubules forms the Retti Testis, that forms the vas efferentia, the epidermis, and that enters into the vas deferens. So this you have to know, and the surgical removal of testis is known as orchidectomy. Orchido plus ectomy is orchidectomy. Alright, yes. And then yeah, So here I taught you something which is known as cryptorchidism. Cryptorchidism, which means crypto means hidden, orchidism means hidden testis, right? Generally in the 7th month of pregnancy, the testis will descend into the scrotum because of the presence of testosterone which is helping it. But because of lower deficiency of testosterone, that will not happen, and that will lead to a condition called cryptorchidism, hidden testis. Testis will remain in the abdominal cavity itself. So if it is remaining in the abdominal cavity, what will happen, guys? Hyperthermia. So generally the purpose of the scrotum is that it can maintain lower temperature, so sperm production becomes ideal. If the testis is not going to descend and it is remaining in the abdominal cavity, what happens? It suffers hyperthermia. Hyper means more temperature. Thermia means temperature, hyper means more. Because of that, sperm formation will not happen. Alright? Yes. So that is one important thing which we learned here. And this beautiful picture I showed you to understand what is meant by Serotonin cells, what is meant by Leydig cells, what is spermatogonia, all that I told you. Right? Leydig cell is present outside, guys, very important, outside the seminiferous tubules, whereas Serotonin cells is present inside the seminiferous tubules. Alright, guys, and Serotonin cells is otherwise known as the nurse cells, which nourishes the spermatogonia, which can develop into the sperm. Spermatogonia is the mother of the sperm. Alright, and once they mature and form into sperm, the tail, it will be dropping inside the lumen of the seminiferous tubules. Right, guys? Yes, and one more important information is that the lining of the seminiferous tubules, right? The lining of the seminiferous tubule is made up of an epithelium which is called as germinal epithelium. Right? So that is basically the cuboidal cells, and that is what is having the primordial germ cells, which gives rise to the primordial germ cells, and that germ cells is what develops into the spermatogonia. The spermatogonia is what develops into the sperm. Alright, guys, you have to know all of these information, and basically the sperm, it produces, or it is produced in the seminiferous tubules of the testis. Alright, yes. Yeah, so that's it, guys. That's all. We have completed some parts of the male reproductive system. We have to discuss about the penile structure, the penis, right? And along with that, a few more terminologies from your exam perspective that we'll see in the next session. Alright, guys, bye bye, take care.